they are failing climate change, they are failing biodiversity, they are failing food security, and for me as a daktari, they are also failing human health. There's a rising rate of non-communicable diseases, obesity. Why obesity? Because we sit a lot, apply pressure on our stomachs, and eat food we shouldn't really be eating. In fact, they now say, listen to this, sitting is the new smoking. The risk from sitting too long, beyond 4 hours a day, is higher than a risk of smoking a whole pack of cigarettes a day. Take that to the bank is an epidemiological research fact. So as often as you get a chance to stand and move, please stand and move, because as Homo sapiens, we were designed to spend more time doing what? Be upstanding. And our grandmothers knew this, our grandfathers knew this. They hunted, they cooked, they moved, they lived too many years. My own grandfather lived up to 119 years. Other things I don't want to mention here because they are within the ambit of indigenous foods, indigenous food systems, agroecological food systems, the systems that sustained our ancestors for millennia. They had their own way of medicines. The herbals, Professor Kimi, you mentioned to it. My good friend, Professor Abukutsa, green leafy vegetables. Do you guys know that now we can reverse diabetes type 2 100% from food, especially if it incorporates indigenous foods? This is big. And inside here, I know 25% of you, if I check, have either diabetes or pre-diabetes. 25% of all of you in here either are pre-diabetic or have diabetes. Just one disease condition. These conditions, good people, Dr. Maingi, I hope you mentioned this, are conditions that can be mitigated by reverting and mainstreaming the consumption of indigenous foods. It is an epidemiological fact from a medical point of view that this country's disease burden, which the Ministry of Health, from where I originally come, although now I masquerade in the Ministry of Agriculture and Education and sometimes Environment, that if we do not change our lifestyles, our food, and moving more, standing more, sitting less, the rates of obesity, extra weight, lack of movement, we will end up not only with mental conditions, but with also an increasing burden of diabetes, blood pressure, strokes, cancers, and all those conditions, including ile shida ya wazee. You know what I'm talking about, shida ya wazee. At 40, 45, people are having issues. I don't want to go there. My time is almost up. Let me say this. Why are we here? What has caused the need for us to come and embrace and celebrate indigenous foods? In my view, humanity is a point of crisis where there is actually an existential threat to survival. And therefore, humanity needs to go back and reevaluate the food systems. And the research that has been done, and the professors are here and it's ongoing, globally, the research part, the academia, the policymakers are starting to deliberately, informed by scientific evidence, mainstream indigenous foods, agroecological foods, foods that are resilient, that are nutrient-rich, that are easy to grow, that don't require external synthetic pesticides, that are good for the soil, are good for climate change, are good for biodiversity preservation, are good for livelihoods improvement, are good for food security and food sovereignty, and above all for me as a medic, are good for better health. Come on, guys. Those of you who are hypertensive inside here, and I think about 50% of you are either borderline or frank blood pressure. And if you challenge me, tomorrow I'll come with my team, they check your blood pressure, and we will find that half of you have blood pressure that's above where it's supposed to be. So you see, this is not just an agricultural issue. It's not a small, fancy, sexy thing about indigenous foods and baskets. It's about a response to a potential existential threat. Think about this for a minute. The funerals you are attending, the funerals I'm attending, good people, what are the causes of death? More and more complications of diabetes, complications of cancer, complications of stroke, complications of all these conditions that cost us a lot. Dr. Baingi, I'm about to stop there so you can continue. So really, for me, we have to work as a team. Where does health begin? This is a moral pause here. Where does health begin? Health begins with the health of the soil. The soil upon which we plant seed. Seed. What is so-called indigenous seed, which creates so-called indigenous food, is actually the original seed that was intended to sustain humanity infinitum. But now, because of profit interests and other interests, issues of geopolitics, like the president of Ghana, the ex-president said, food is a political weapon. Food is culture. Food is your existential interpretation of reality. How it's cooked, how it's prepared, how it's visualized. So for me, and I'm going to pause here, Dan, this is something I'm extremely passionate for. Why did I go to Johns Hopkins and Alliance and University of Nairobi and Harvard and come back to work with farmers and left the clinics? I'll pause here. Because what we're doing right now is mopping the floor. We wait, you get sick, and we provide sick care. Very good for making money. Why? If you get diabetes and you're diagnosed, you're on treatment for life. If you get blood pressure and you are on treatment, you're on treatment for life. If you get cancer, most likely you're treated until you die. So, Bwana Makazi, I'll pause here and say, this is why indigenous foods are the solution to 4 human existential crises. 1, biodiversity loss. 2, climate change mitigation. 3, food security and sovereignty. And finally, the burden of rising NCDs. On that note, I would like to hand over to...
Sure, absolutely. Big round of applause to Daktari. Thank you so much. And Daktari as well, yes, had a request